Hello everyone, welcome back to Virtual MOSI. I know it's been a few days, so just so a heads up for everyone, we're going to be doing our Virtual MOSI videos now on Thursdays and Fridays, so go ahead and check those out. So this entire month we are going to be discussing seasons, but we're not going to be talking them from a very scientific, just biology background. We're going to be talking about them from different aspects of different sort of careers. We have some things about space, we have plants, animals, all kinds of amazing different things, all talking about seasons. So today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite things, animals, and we're going to be talking about migrations. So animal migrations is a very large topic, and I'm going to try to fit in as much as I can in today and as well as tomorrow. So today we're going to be focusing on the basics. So with migrations, I have some pretty cool images up there. I'm just going to briefly talk about the ones that you see up there. The first one is going to be the world's largest shark, which is going to be the whale shark. The one in the middle is going to be talking about a lot more tomorrow. That is the wildebeest migration over in Africa. The third one is going to be the sand-tailed cranes. If you're from Florida, you definitely have seen many of those before. And the one on the other side are going to be the caribou migrating for their winter. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and talking about some amazing different things. So the first thing I definitely want to point on is going to be migrations versus hibernation. So often that's a thing I get whenever I'm talking about this. Migration is going to be when animals are going to be traveling thousands and thousands of miles according to different seasons. Often it's whenever it's cold where they're naturally found. They're going to be migrating to wherever it's a lot warmer and more food is abundant. While animals that hibernate are not going to do those very long distances. They're going to be traveling not too far away from their home or even staying exactly where they are. And they're going to sleep for a long period of time. They're not entirely asleep for several months at a time. They do wake up, they will eat, but they are asleep for, weeks at a time. So that's often the main difference between hibernation and migration. Can anyone tell me in the comments any animals that may hibernate? I'll come back to that and see if anyone has given me some really cool answers. There are some very popular ones I'm sure everyone will know, but if you can tell me some really cool ones, I'd like that as well. Okay, so what actually is migration? I touched on that a little bit ago. So animal migrations are going to be animals that travel long distances, often almost across the entire world. So thousands and thousands of miles. That can be a lot for an animal as small as like a butterfly or as large as a blue whale. So some of those animals, 1,000 miles may not seem as long, but for some others, it's a very, very, very long time. Then there are seasonal, so often it's going to be seasonal, like I mentioned. So with those seasons, it's often going to be traveling more down south during the winter times, and then back up north whenever it is a little too cold around here. This is also found in all major animal groups. So that's something that we can find across all different species of animals. So I think that's really cool. It doesn't just happen with birds. Often people think birds are the ones that migrate. We all know that birds migrate. Almost every species of birds do. But then a lot of other animals do. So we're going to point out some really cool animals throughout today that do migrate. Okay. So these are the animals today that we're going to be focusing on that do migrate. The sea turtles, baleen whales, different kinds of birds. I'm just pointing out birds in general instead of pointing out, the several thousand different species of birds that do migrate. Zooplankton, I'll explain what that means in just a minute. Sharks and pinnipeds, which are sea lions and, whoa, I forgot the other word. Sea lions and seals. How did I forget that? So we're going to go ahead and talk about each of those animals, and we're going to do some cool things. So, sea turtles. Again, if you live in Florida, you often have come in contact with a sea turtle in some sort of way, whether you have seen it from the beach when it's nesting or at one of our amazing aquariums here. So here in Florida, we have two major species that do migrate to Florida, and that is for their nesting. We're going to have the loggerheads and the green sea turtles. And we are near their nesting season. So if you do happen to see any of those sea turtles on our beaches here in Florida, just go ahead and leave them where they are. If you do want to know more information about who to contact, please leave a comment below and we can go ahead and give that to you if you do see that happening. And there are other species that do occasionally come nest around here. But yeah, so those are the two main ones that do that. There's another sea turtle that I do like to point out that travels the most out of any of the sea turtles. That is going to be the leatherback sea turtle. It travels more than 12,000 miles every year to come back to its migration, to its mating grounds and where the females will go and lay their eggs. I think that's pretty cool. Next are going to be baleen whales. Baleen whales are going to be split up into two different groups that I do like to talk about. That is going to be the gray whale and the humpback whale. So baleen whales are the ones that have sort of the filter feeder teeth structures. So that's something that I wanted to point out there so you're not like, what is a baleen whale? So they also travel about 14,000 miles round trip annually to go make sure they have enough food to eat because they're going to be traveling south whenever they do need to make sure they have enough food. And then they're going to travel back up north. But again, these animals are the largest animals in the world, so 14,000 miles doesn't seem like too long of a distance, but still is pretty far. The humpback whale is about 16,000 miles, and that is annually as well. So they're going to be traveling from warmer waters to the winter climate to, they're going to be traveling to the winter months to mate and give birth to their new calves. So I think that's pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and move on to birds. So birds. Like I said, there are about close to 2,000 different birds that will migrate every year. And these often are the animals that travel the furthest. There are birds that are at sea all year, flying, and they sometimes do rest, but they often are just traveling most of the year and will come back to the same area every year to mate. So a bird that I do like to point out is going to be this one right up in the top corner. That is going to be an Arctic tern. So they take the longest migration out of any animal, which is 44,000 miles every year. That's a long distance, right? I think that is. And later we'll actually go ahead and we're going to do a migration map, and I'm going to show you how far every year they do travel. One animal that I do like to point out that still does migrate, it is still a bird, but it does not migrate in the air. So it does not fly around, it flies underwater, which is going to be our penguins. So our penguins, they do also travel thousands and thousands of miles, and all species of penguins will do some sort of migration, but they do that mostly underwater. Again, they can't fly. They have those really nice strong wings in order to swim or fly under the water. So another one I do like to point out is going to be zooplankton. So zooplankton make up a good portion of our ocean's organisms. So they are the little tiny microscopic organisms such as baby animals like shrimps, baby crabs, all kinds of really cool little tiny animals. They look just like those guys right along the side. But instead of traveling vertically, they're going to be traveling through the sky or through the water. These guys are going to travel vertically, so up and down. And they do this migration every single day. They do this in order to find food. What is this? This is known as vertical migration. I know, very creative. But they actually travel about 3,000 feet every day to do that migration to make sure they have enough food. For an animal that is very, very, very tiny, 3,000 miles is a pretty good distance, and they do this every single day. Often animals only migrate once a year, not every single day. So I think that's amazing that we have animals that we have probably seen but haven't actually seen that migrate every day. So let's go ahead and take a look at my handy map right over here. We are going to talk about our whales and our Arctic terns. So I already have placed out some starting points on our map. And again, this is a map of the entire world. What we're going to do is we're going to do a migration map of our animals. Okay? So we're going to start over here. The blue dots right here are going to be our whale migrations. So like I said, they're going to start off in the colder climates up near the Arctic and travel more southern. And it's the same thing going to be for the Arctic terns as well. They're going to start up top of the world and go more southern. And they're just going to do the opposite migration route back towards back where they started and do the same thing every year. So right over here, we have the United States is right here, just so you kind of are aware. We're pretty much right over here. We're going to start in doing our mapping. So we have our two different families of whales that start right over here, and they're both going to travel down to almost the same location. That is important for different mating purposes as well as migrations. That is a major reason why animals do migrate, is to continue repopulating their numbers. So they're going to travel all the way down there. Well then over here, our two groups are going to travel all the way over this way, just like that. Cool. But those ones are not done yet. They're also gonna kind of hang out here. This is a good sort of calving grounds for whales, so right around this location. But then they're going to travel all the way around South America, all the way back down, and there. I think that's very far. Then these guys right here are also going to do the same thing. They're going to travel, but around the other way, and back down, and they're going to congregate back down at the end of South America. Cool. So we have two more locations that whales do like to travel from. So we have right around here, and they're going to travel all the way down. Remember, they're always going to travel south. Okay. So this one over here is one of my favorites. So we have these two groups that are going to meet up over here. Then they're going to travel all the way over here. So let me move that so you can see. All the way over. And then back down this way. Awesome. So like I said, the whales are going to migrate down, all the way back down to the southern hemisphere. And then once it's, a little too warm down that way, they're going to migrate all the way back up. And that is around anywhere from 14,000 to 16,000 miles that these animals will travel every year. I think that's pretty cool. So now we're going to do, since we talked about, a giant mammal that lives in the water, we're going to discuss our Arctic terns, those really cool birds I mentioned earlier with the black heads and the white bodies. So we're going to map out their migration pattern. Okay? So it's going to kind of look similar to some of our whale patterns, but a little bit different as well. So we have our two starting points right up here. Again, this is very, very, very far north. Perspective, Florida's all the way over here, very far. It's even further north than our whales. So we're going to start out here, and then we're going to travel all the way down there. And then these guys are going to go all the way around South America, just like those whales. Kind of follow a very similar pattern as those whales. As you saw, they're not too far away. And then they're going to go all the way down as far as they possibly can go into the southern hemisphere. Okay, let's go ahead and do another one. So they're going to start off here, go all the way down. This is kind of like a central meeting point for their species. And they're going to go around Africa. A little stop there. Then a little stop here. A little stop there. Back around. So they have a little more, stops and goes than another group of the Arctic terns. But yeah, so those are the two different species that we're going to map out today. Tomorrow, we're going to map out some other species. And we're going to focus on the ones that you can find in the United States. Things like the monarch butterfly migrations. And we're going to do some amazing migrations that happen over in Africa with the wildebeest. So some of these migrations can actually be seen from space. We'll see all that tomorrow, so don't worry about that. So let's go ahead and do our wrap-up for the day. So I hope everyone enjoyed. We talked about the difference between hibernation and migration. Just to recap on that, hibernation are animals that are going to sleep for a long period of time, stay in their general location whenever it does get colder outside and food resources are not as abundant. While animals that are going to migrate are generally going to start in the more northern areas and travel south but it can also go the other way around. So we're going to go ahead and do something new that we haven't done before. So today's going to be the first day. We are going to do a daily question with our virtual MOSIs. So the first question today that I do want to see if anyone can give me some interesting answers or the best answer you can give me. How do animals know where to migrate? We did discuss a lot of things about where animals migrate. They travel north to south and south to north, traveling with the weather, with the seasons. But we want to know where. How do they know where to go? That's a great question. Let's give everyone a few seconds, a few little bit to see if anyone has any comments, questions, anything like that. Okay. No. Okay. We, again, will be answering these questions. We'll be monitoring. If you do have any comments, let's see what we can do. I'll bring them up tomorrow to discuss it, because we're still going to be talking about migrations tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great day, and goodbye.